So it was working?
The British
Hello?
Columbia Institute of Technology
Hello?
acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of
Hello?
Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Hello?
From the broadcast center at BCIT's Burnaby Campus. This
I can hear you
is
now.
Talk
Whatever you
Radio.
guys did,
You're
where I could,
listening to 1680 The Crow.
Hello, this is Shaigon Jafarbeglu with your afternoon news update. Wildfires are still threatening Fort McMurray, Alberta, and residents have been placed under an evacuation order.
We're ready to defend our community if needed, but hopefully that won't come to that.
Jody Butts, the fire chief in charge of the Fort McMurray region, says at this point residents will be out until at least next Tuesday, but fire crews will remain on standby. Alberta Wildlife Information Officer José Saint-Onge says the weather today is favorable.
So they're expected to push the wildfire away from the community.
The rest of Fort McMurray and other surrounding subdivisions remain under an evacuation alert. Bill Graveland, the Canadian Press.
The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation says the annual pace of housing starts in April edged down 1% compared with March. Michelle Zadikian has more.
CMHC Chief Economist Bob Dugan says the downward trend in housing starts was largely driven by fewer multi-unit starts, particularly in Ontario. He says volatility in the multi-unit property segment in Toronto, as well as Vancouver and Montreal in recent months, is unsurprising considering higher borrowing costs. He expects the downward pressure to continue in those big cities. Housing starts, a measure of new residential construction, has been in the spotlight recently because of the affordability crisis and government promises to build more homes quicker. Michelle Zadikian, the Canadian Press.
Sexual assault victims are angry at the Ontario government for allegedly playing procedural games over a proposed bill. Government House Leader Paul Calandra sent a proposed NDP sex assault justice bill to committee and canceled the debate on the subject. Survivor Kate Alexander says the government needs to listen to survivors and cooperate more. Tenants in downtown East Side feel exploited by their landlords. The landlords often increase rent without consideration for the tenants. Our reporter Vivek Nakra talks about single-room occupancies that are common on the East Side.
The provincial government is supporting a bylaw that protects low-income SRO tenants. People find these as the last accommodations before getting homeless. Different people are coming to these single-room occupancies to get shelter. SRO property manager Sam Hoare talks about how he does the screening process when he looks at the tenants.
Like sometimes if I meet someone and I have a good picture of them, I can just kind of get a good vibe off them, I'll give them a chance immediately. It does happen in rare cases. Most of these people are either homeless or living in other SROs. So it's, it could take about a week or two even. I need to know their criminal history.
He says that it is important to know the drug history of the tenants because people with certain drug abuse situations act differently. Vivek Nakra, BCIT's The Crow.
According to the Canadian Medical Association's journal, melanoma is one of the forms of cancer seeing the largest rise among Canadians. Zach Arobko tells us more on how to avoid melanoma and learn lessons from a patient.
No two experiences with cancer are the same. A cancer diagnosis is often a life-altering event. Mario Chevrette's 2018 melanoma diagnosis encouraged his retirement from McGill University and led him down a path of volunteer advocacy with Melanoma Canada. Chevrette underwent immunotherapy treatments, developing colitis side effects in multiple parts of his colon. His experience made him a believer in preventative treatment.
There's no doubt in my mind that prevention is a lot better than even the best treatment, which is immunotherapy right now.
Chevrette advocates for monthly skin screenings and encourages people to see a dermatologist if they see abnormal moles on their body. Zach Arobko, BCIT's The Crow.
The Loblaw boycott that started May 1st is well underway. Reporter Tammy Mack gives us an update on how that movement is going.
Today marks exactly 2 weeks since the beginning of the nationwide Loblaw boycott that was initiated by the Reddit group Loblaws is Out of Control. According to the subreddit, which started as a gathering place for consumers to vent about their rising grocery bills, their following has grown by 21,000 since the beginning of the month. Angered by the inflated revenues in Loblaw's fiscal reports, the subreddit called for a month-long boycott of all Loblaw companies, including Superstore, Shopper Drug Mart, T&T, and Independent Grocer. The subreddit is now calling for the boycott to last for the entire quarter. Tammy Mack, BCIT's The Crow.
Palestinians are marking the day when many of them were uprooted as war erupted between Israel and the Arab world back in the late 1940s. Jordana Miller of ABC has more.
Palestinians marching in the West Bank marking Nakba Day as the war in Gaza complicates their aims for an independent state. Nakba, which means catastrophe, refers to the 700,000 Palestinians who fled or were forced out of their homes during Israel's War of Independence. That painful history resonating so strongly this year as many watch Palestinians in Gaza uprooted and displaced by another deadly war. Jordana Miller, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Slovakian officials say political motivation is clear in an assassination attempt on the prime minister. The prime minister is fighting for his life after being shot multiple times and a suspect is in custody. Defense Minister Robert Kalinak says political violence has no place in the country and that this attack is not only an assault on the prime minister but democracy itself. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he is ready to negotiate for an end in fighting in Ukraine. Charles de Ledesma of the Associated Press has more on the details of the negotiations.
In an interview with Chinese media, Russian President Vladimir Putin, on the eve of a visit to Beijing, says his regime is prepared to negotiate over the conflict in Ukraine. The official Xinhua news agency quotes Putin saying, "We're open to a dialogue, but such negotiations must take into account the interests of all countries involved in the conflict, including ours." Putin adds, Moscow is seeking a comprehensive, sustainable and just settlement of this conflict through peaceful means. His trip comes as Russian forces have pressed their offensive in northeast Ukraine's Kharkiv region. China claims to take a neutral position in the conflict, but has backed Moscow in real terms. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
OpenAI has released GPT 4.0 this week. Reporter Lauren Achille speaks with a relationship coach who says no robot can replace person-to-person interaction.
GPT-4o is a chatbot that can understand audio, image, and text inputs with the goal of creating a human-like interaction with a computer. Annika Uzak, a Vancouver-based relationship coach, says a conversation with a chatbot like this may come off as disingenuous.
I don't think anything could replace that sort of human contact because you don't know where a human interaction's going sometimes, right? So I'm not really too threatened by a computer's ability to emulate human feelings or emotions.
Uzek adds there are positives to chatbots as they have provided her with different perspectives on relationships. She says despite how humane it may seem, human interactions are just too special to replace. Lauren Achille, BCIT's The Crow.
It is looking partly cloudy in Burnaby with a chance of showers tomorrow until it clears up again on Friday. Check out the BCIT News website for the most up-to-date news. This has been Shaigan Jafarbeglu with your news update. Okay, we're extending it. Okay. Neighborhood houses are built to bring people from all walks of life together to promote a sense of community. Reporter Matthias Jones talked with an organizer from a Kitsilano neighborhood house about what community means to her.
The Kitsilano Neighborhood House offers services and programs to anyone from newborn to senior. One of their services, the Better at Home program, helps seniors with non-medical, day-to-day tasks to make it easier for them to stay.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.